Do I sound nasally? Do I sound like I've got a sore throat? That's because I'm recovering from a cold, and you've got to deal with that. You thought this would be about battles in time, didn't you? You fool! You may not have known this about me, but I like Doctor Who. It's kind of my whole thing. I have multiple friend groups who know me as the Doctor Who guy. They have running jokes that they can summon me by saying Daleks, a robot. So I even named my YouTube channel after a niche one-off monster from the year I made the channel. I hadn't even watched their episode yet. I just thought they looked neat. Look at him. Look at his nifty little hat. And I've basically always been like this. Like a classic era companion, I have had no character growth. When I was 4, my parents stuck on Destiny of the Daleks to keep me occupied while they've chatted about adult things with their friend, and I've never looked back. And Destiny of the Daleks isn't even that good an episode. This was in 2001, when the show had been off the air for 12 years, save for the TV movie, which was half a decade ago, and the revival wasn't even a gleam in Russell T Davies' eye. Doctor Who merch was tricky to get your hands on. You couldn't walk down to your local Toys R Us and pick up the latest Ken and Zarbi playset. And my parents had just gone and made it my entire life. Poor, poor souls. I was like a freaking tyrannid that only ate Sidney Newman's brain-flavoured biomass. I was ravenous. They fed my need for new episodes through their friend Phil, who owned every episode that had ever been released on VHS. But as they came out on DVD, he'd get the DVD and chuck the VHS over to us. But I wanted more. I needed more. So my father, desperate, afraid, would scour the nascent internet for anyone selling old Doctor Who merch. Action figures, broken down K9s, decades old annuals. But that's how I got this weird little oddity. The Doctor Who trump card game. And it has fascinated me for over 20 years now. If you know Top Trumps, you know this game. It's not made by Top Trumps, though they were released in the same year as the first Top Trumps deck, apparently, but it's the same idea. Each card has 3 stats, we'll come back to those, each with a numerical value of 1 to 10. One player picks the stat they want to attack with, and whichever player has the higher score in that stat wins. So you can use these cards to do battle between your favourite Doctor Who characters, like the Cybermen, the Ice Warriors, and Horatio Nelson. Wait. So as a child, I thought there must be an episode where the Doctor meets Lord Nelson or Spartacus or the other various historical figures they've got in here. But no! No, they're just random dudes from history. Except for Wyatt Earp. He's the one guy in this deck who did meet the Doctor. So what gives? Well, it turns out that image rights weren't included in actors' contracts in the 60s and 70s, so you couldn't make merchandise of the faces of the actors. This is the same reason why if you pick up, say, the 1976 Doctor Who annual, Tom Baker looks like he's travelling with Magnum PI and a nightmare fusion of Leela and Victoria Waterfield instead of Harry and Sarah Jane. Because of this, Jotaro Toys, who made the deck, couldn't include any companions. The Master's out too, unless they wanted to use the far less iconic skeleton design, seeing as, that's Roger Delgado's face right there. So they needed to have a workaround to give the Doctor someone to fight alongside. In a unique move, what they decided to do was to give a loose narrative to this children's card game. The Doctor's deadliest enemies have all teamed up, and so the Doctor is forced to unite the legendary Legion to stop them. All of history's greatest heroes are there, and who has the Doctor chosen to fight alongside? Well, you've got a few big names that you probably would want on your side, like Alexander the Great or Annie Oakley. And then there's a few weird pseudo-historical picks like Samson or King Arthur. And Thor! Thor's in this! Chris bloody Hemsworth is in my Doctor Who deck! But that's fine. Doctor Who loves playing with history and folklore, so we'll say that these guys occupy the same space as Atlantis and Robin Hood in the Whoniverse. But then you've got some outright fictional characters like Sherlock Holmes, and then just some random jobbers. Like, you've got a single Parthian warrior and one samurai who, let's be honest, could probably take on a whole alien army by himself. He is a samurai. He's got a katana. He's unstoppable. He'll just like cut a yeti in half and be like, nothing personal, kid, and teleport behind him, and the yeti will fall in half. The control sphere will be sparking and shrieking. You know, I'm going to go off on a tangent about the samurai because he's referred to on the card as a Xiao Qi samurai warrior, but I can't find anything about the term Xiao Qi. I thought it might be a misspelling of Xiao Qi, but that's a Chinese word for a hearty snack. So maybe Xiao Qi is meant to be his name, but nothing about him shows up online. There's no Xiao Qi samurai in recorded history, according to Google. Oh, so why does he get a name when the Parthian warrior doesn't? I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm not fine. Where these guys really start to get to me is when I start thinking about how they'd all get on. I don't deny there are a few people here who I'd love to see interact, like Lord Nelson and Boudica. I can imagine Nelson falling head over heels and going giddy over the woman who literally inspired the concept of Britannia.
But then she starts eating a whole leg of lamb like Lena in Talons of Weng Chiang, but she's like swearing at him and going, get over it, you stubborn way prick!
But then you've got several heroes of the American Old West here, like Wyatt Earp, David Crockett, and Colonel James Bowie. You know, the guy who kept smuggling slaves into the United States after slavery was abolished. And they're all on a team with Geronimo, a Native American warrior who vehemently fought against American settlers, and then you've got Chaka, King of the Zulus. Doctor, why did you get James Bowie on your alien fighting team? I don't care that he fought at the Alamo, he's going to want to sell his own teammates. The Doctor's gotten some of the most prolific colonizers in the world, put them on a team with people who would hate everything they stand for, and said, go run at that Cyberman with your pointy metal stick. I'm sure it'll go great. Now, I'm quickly going to touch on the monsters, because you probably know what all these are. Then I want to get onto the stats, because oh boy, those stats are something. For the most part, you've got all the monsters you'd expect to see in a Doctor Who product made in the 1970s. You've got the Cybermen, the Autons, the Sontarans, but one notable exception. No Daleks. For similar reasons to the Companions, the BBC couldn't use the image of the Daleks without permission from Terry Nation. He was very picky about what he could do with his pepper pots, so the Daleks aren't in here. Davros is, but the Daleks aren't. I guess Davros just decided to go along by himself and hang out with, I don't know, the Mechanoids or something? Maybe this card game predicted the audio drama The Juggernauts about 20 years before its release. Oh, the Daleks' henchmen, the Ogrons, are here, and we'll be talking about them again, don't you worry. But there's no Daleks. Maybe the Daleks were too racist to hang out with the other species. Maybe they saw James Bowie on the other side and went, he's chill, he's one of us. Also, the Sensorites are here. You know, the guys who are basically all nice and pacifists, except for that one guy who briefly took over and was then ousted. Maybe they're on the Doctor's side. Maybe this is in the 10 minutes that guy was in charge of them. I don't know. Let's talk stats. Every card has 3 stats. Mental ability, so intelligence, special powers, an incredibly broad category if I ever heard one, and weapons, each graded on a scale of 1 to 10. So, Mechanoid Flamethrower, that's an 8 for weapons. Bow and arrow, you're looking at a 6. cutting-edge disintegrator gun that can reduce anything up to a frickin' tank to ash with a single blast? That's about a 7. You may be noticing something here. If the game was going to be good for anything, I'd have thought it would be comparing stats to settle arguments with your friends. You know, can a Cyberman beat a Sontaran in a fight? But apparently, your average Cyberman is only about as smart as an escaped Roman slave. Hang on. Spartacus has twice the special powers of the literal devil. The most egregious cases are the ones where you can see that they have weapons in the picture, like Boudica, shown here in her iconic blade-wheeled chariot waving a sword in the air, but they're given a weapon stat of 0. Nil? Not even 0. Nil! But this one says 0. What's the difference between 0 and 0? Why would you have two separate stats that mean nothing? And then there's this Ogron, who's clearly holding a gun. Wait a minute. That's not an Ogron! Hey, I told you I'd get back to the Ogrons, didn't I? Okay, let's read this description. Ogrons, the savage, ape-like creatures whose sole purpose is to serve their terrible masters, the Daleks, who aren't even in this deck, by spreading murder and chaos throughout the galaxy. Ape-like. And then, when we check the card that says Sea Devil on it, sure enough, we see an Ogron. But why is he green? Seriously, I got this deck before I saw Day of the Daleks or Frontier in Space, the two stories that Ogrons appear in. So for years, I thought that Ogrons were green, and then I was just blindsided by this vaguely racist design choice. And the stats are the same on both cards! According to this, the Ogrons are as smart as Davros! These guys! I think I might have a rare printing error here or something, because I've seen correctly named pics of both online, but seriously, what the hell? Even so, these cards hold a real special place in my heart. I played with these a lot as a kid, much to the chagrin of my parents, and the art on these lit up my imagination. Like, look at this picture of Omega. I hadn't watched The Three Doctors yet when I bought this, but I looked at this and I wanted to know all about him. He looks so powerful, like a grand wizard, like casting a spell of ultimate destruction. And the Silurians here look awesome and otherworldly. The Ogrons look badass, even if they're green. I wanted to scour every episode to find these characters and creatures. I wanted to see the Doctor cross paths with Hercules so he could body slam a Dalek or something. And I still do. If I'm ever showrunner, I'm going to make the Doctor meet every single one of these historical figures. And on that day, when Sherlock Holmes is confirmed as canon in the Doctor Who universe, and he uses his superior mental ability to outwit a Cyberman, you'll know that it's because of this card game from 1978 that was probably made by someone who had never even actually watched the show. Thanks for watching. I'm dying! Okay. Even so, these cards hold a... My illness is trying to stop me saying anything nice about this deck!